This is Utter Radio.
This is Take 20.
Take 20.
With Sean Hatch and Angelo Monteiro.
Sean Hatch and Angelo Monteiro.
Good evening, we are live from the University of Salford here at Media City. Welcome to Take 20. I'm your host, Sean Hatch, and with me here today we've got Angelo Monteiro. How you doing, Angelo?
I'm great, Sean. How are you today?
I'm not too bad. And what's coming up on tonight's show?
Today we have a jam-packed show for you guys. Starting off the show, we have Dylan with the news, which will then be followed up by the weather. Then we have an interview with a student about travelling within the travel window caused by COVID-19.
Personally, I was quite happy about it because it's allowing me the opportunity to go home.
We find out how performers within the arts industry are affected by COVID-19. Then we move from in front of the camera to behind it, finding out how COVID-19 has made a camera grip's job much harder.
Got to be very self-aware of how close you are to people and keep it to a minimum.
And of course, we want to get you involved at home. So tweet us with the hashtag Take20. This week's question is, do you think Manchester should be in Tier 3 COVID restrictions? We want to hear your thoughts and we'll read them out at the end of the show. Now it's time for the news from Dylan.
This is Utter Radio.
Good afternoon, it's time for your news bulletin brought to you by Utter Radio. It's just gone 3, I'm Dylan Pengelly. 13,000 jobs are at risk after the retail empire Arcadia goes into administration. The group, which includes Topshop, Burton's and Dorothy Perkins, they have been forced to seek additional funding in the form of a cash injection. This is supposedly due to a drop in sales as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, former Topshop boss Jane Shepperson alleges that the group's issues began long before the COVID-19 pandemic and is in fact due to the failure of Sir Philip Green to invest in his business. Here's Jane Shepperson with more.
Philip's overriding concern was to buy something as cheaply as he could possibly buy it and then to sell it for as much as he could get for it. The online players such as ASOS and Boohoo don't have the cost base of the stores. They don't have to pay for staffing in their stores. All they have is their online presence. They're much better at it. They've invested a huge amount of money in it, and they have a much better connection with their customers.
Plans for a statue of Margaret Thatcher are being approved despite concerns of vandalism being carried out by politically motivated activists. Lincolnshire police are not opposing the plans but urge for proper security precautions to be undertaken. The statue will stand 10 feet tall and will be placed on a plinth of the same height to ensure its protection. The statue was offered to a birthplace of Baroness Thatcher, the town of Grantham, after plans for it to be in Parliament Square were rejected last year. The Prime Minister is facing extensive criticism as the new tiered system is coming into place following the second national lockdown. Many Conservative MPs are expressing anger that almost all of the UK is in Tier 2 restrictions, despite a decline in cases, with many counties having less cases and more restrictions than before the second lockdown. Tom Tugendhat, a Conservative MP critical of the government, explains why a new approach may be needed.
Look, of course he's right that we need simplicity and clarity, but we also need it to be appropriate. We're asking people to make very serious sacrifices, personal sacrifices, economic sacrifices, and that's why it's important that what we ask people to do is entirely appropriate to the situation they find themselves in.
Boris Johnson has stated he understands the frustration but insists that all restrictions are necessary in controlling the virus. Now it's time for the weather. Thursday will have rain, mainly in the south and west. It will be cold and icy on the hills, sunny spells in northern and eastern areas, but some spells of rain are possible. On Friday, outbreaks of rain on the northern half of the UK, and cold and icy again on areas of altitude. Southern areas will be mostly dry with some sunshine. That's all from me today. Next update in half an hour.
This is Take 20.
Take 20.
Now, recently the government announced that all students must leave home for Christmas between the 2nd and the 9th of December. So we sent our roving reporter, Mooney, out to Bolton University to interview a student on what she thinks of the plans.
Who are you and what do you do?
My name is Beth Vance and I am a student at the University of Bolton and I study psychology, psychotherapy and counselling.
How have you been doing throughout this most recent lockdown?
The most recent lockdown has been a bit hard, especially because personally I just moved to Bolton from Northern Ireland. It's been really different to the first time, considering I don't even have my family as close anymore. It's been new, to say the least.
How has your course and your university experience already been affected by the coronavirus?
I'm only allowed on campus 1 day a week. So I found it quite hard to meet new people. It's been quite challenging, especially in terms of the fact that it's a new subject, and there's been a couple of assessments that I haven't really had that much of a chance to talk to people about. It's a bit awkward and it's a bit challenging.
In terms of this new student evacuation that the government has announced, what was your reaction upon hearing about their plans to send students home in this way?
Personally, I was quite happy about it because it's allowing me the opportunity to go home, which was a previous worry before. It's a bit concerning because it's quite sudden. It's a bit concerning because everyone's a bit unsure as to what the unis are actually doing in terms of classes. Personally, for my course, it's less of a struggle, but I know that a lot of my friends are a bit worried as they're on more practical courses. We have a testing facility opening up in the uni for that short window, so it's good on that front, but in terms of people and their courses in particular, there's not that much information out as of yet.
As a student from Northern Ireland, as you said, how will you be affected differently, do you feel, to students from England, Scotland or Wales?
I think it's just a bit of a bigger relief because I have further to travel, so there's more worry about getting to and from home compared to an English student. Not to say that they're not struggling or they're not worried, because I know that England is still going into lockdowns. So I think, like, on a personal note, it's just because there's further to go, which makes it more concerning if you suddenly get told that you can't.
Do you know how you're going to be getting home yet?
I personally will be getting a ferry. Originally I was supposed to get a flight over, but that's changed, and I know that I'll be getting a flight back. I know that there was a lot of worry with another Northern Irish student here who had her flights cancelled before, so there will be a lot of worry if that would end up happening again.
On a lighter note, what are you looking forward to about going home to Northern Ireland for Christmas? Is there anything in particular that you're hoping for from Santa Claus?
I'm not hoping for anything from Santa Claus, but I am very much looking forward to giving my mum a big hug.
Thank you so much, Beth Vance, for talking to me about the government's evacuation plan for university students. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
This is Take 20.
Take 20.
Now, we're all getting quite used to living under the COVID restrictions here in the UK, but we wondered what it was like living with COVID elsewhere in the world. So I spoke to Alan, who's a Florida resident who currently has COVID, to see what it was like living in America during a pandemic. I'm here with Alan Kozar. Thank you very much for joining me today, and he's going to talk a little bit about how COVID-19 has affected him whilst living across the pond in Florida. So Alan, could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name's Alan. I'm 18, almost 19. I live in Florida, and I do mobile detailing for a living.
Now, obviously, I think there's been quite a difference between how the UK has dealt with COVID and how America has dealt with COVID. So in the UK, we've been in and out of some quite strict restrictions throughout the year, pretty much. What are the restrictions like in Florida currently?
They're honestly really relaxed. They don't force the mask. They don't force nothing. The stores have the sign. If you don't wear it, they don't do nothing. If you do, then it's fine.
Yeah, do you think that the restrictions should be stricter then?
Honestly, I do. Most countries, I feel like, were stricter with it, and it helped get rid of it quicker, but it's still here because they're not forcing it too much.
So I've heard that you've had COVID-19 yourself. What was that like?
It was actually the first 2 days, everything was hurting. Coughing, headaches like crazy. I thought I was dying. It kind of started with like a sore throat the day before, and I thought I was just, dry or something from not drinking. I went to sleep, woke up, didn't even want to move. My whole body was just in pain. Couldn't stop coughing. My headaches were going in and out like crazy, and they're strong ones. It was uncomfortable.
Yeah, so you mentioned there that the first 2 days were particularly bad. So how quickly did you begin to recover from that initial bad period?
Towards the end of the second day, I started feeling a little bit better. I went to sleep, woke up. I can still feel some of this stuff, like, the headaches, the sore throat, but I'm able to want to move around and actually speak and eat. Then I didn't want to do nothing.
Yeah, no, it must be awful. But are you okay now? Do you have any lasting symptoms, or are we all better?
I'm still coughing, my nose, my throat, headaches a little bit still here and there. Other than that, it's better.
The UK has recently approved a COVID vaccine from Pfizer-BioNTech, with America presumably to follow soon. Are you excited about this news?
Well, I mean, it could be good, but I'm not trying to be one of the first people to test it out because you never know the symptoms of it. I won't really get in until they know it's for sure safe and nothing's going to happen. It just seems like they're trying to get it out there quick.
Yeah.
Maybe being rushed or something. I don't know.
So you personally, when you get the phone call saying you're next in line, are you going to take that offer or are you going to wait a little bit longer?
I had to wait a little bit longer.
No? Okay. Well, Alan, thank you very much for talking to me today. That has been incredibly insightful. And I'm sure that it'll be very interesting to many of our UK listeners to have that perspective from America, as we see it on the news over here all the time. But, you know, it's nice to hear it firsthand. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me.
This is Take 20.
Take 20.
With Sean Hatch and Angelo Monteiro.
Sean Hatch and Angelo Monteiro.
Maybe it's time for a change of pace in the show and a new voice. I'm Dylan, and today I'm going to be bringing a question to our amazing in-studio presenters. Now, the thought for this week is something that you can think along of at home. Type your responses into the hashtag Take20. But now let's hear from our presenters. The question I'm going to put to you today: the Conservative Party has faced extensive criticism from all sides, and even from within the party. Issues such as Brexit, coronavirus and free school meals have caused the most controversy. The Labour Party, led by Sir Keir Starmer, has overtaken the Conservatives in voting intention polls conducted by YouGov. Has the Red Wall been rebuilt with the PM blowing his chance at re-election, guys?
Well, honestly, I don't think that the Conservatives stand much chance of getting re-elected. They've had some difficult policies that they've had to implement this year for any government, but I don't think people are going to forgive them on the big things that they have done wrong this year.
Which is, for me anyways, is the school meals issue.
Yeah.
I mean, for somebody who relied on school meals and family members still do rely on school meals, I think it's outrageous for the government to say that they want children to have free school meals, but when they have the chance to change it, they don't. And that, for me, is absolutely outrageous.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and all the work that has been done for campaigning against that, I think, shows how much people are just against that decision, and I don't think that's helped them with their election choices for next year.
Exactly. Brexit is a massive reason why I feel like they've really messed up, because it was basically 50-50, and I feel like they've fully split a nation there.
Absolutely, the division is clear to see. But one thing that we do have to remember is that it's a 5-year term. They've only had 1 year. They've got 4 years to turn it around. Who knows what could happen in that time? It's been a difficult year.
This is Utter Radio.
Since lockdown, I've been super intrigued to find out how the performing arts industry is coping with the effects of the pandemic. According to Spotlight, which is the home of all casting in the UK, 72% of performers have lost their jobs during the 2020 COVID pandemic. So I got in contact with an actor, dancer, singer-songwriter to find out how the performing arts industry is coping with the effects of the pandemic.
My name is Nicholas Kerry and I'm a dancer, singer, actor.
This is your Act 1 beginner's call to the stage, please.
So how did you get into the industry?
My mum, she used to dance as well back in the day. When I was little, I started ballet tap and then I saw Flawless. They were on Britain's Got Talent at that time and I just loved them. So then I just started like street, I started commercial, and then that's sort of more what I'm into right now.
So I can see that you've been in the industry for a while and it's something that you really are passionate about. Obviously times are a bit difficult now. How has the coronavirus affected you?
So I feel like COVID has affected like the performing arts industry more than any other industry, because there's no way really around still performing and still getting that live feeling without people being there, if that makes sense. And because of that, all of the jobs that you'd normally go for aren't there anymore. So you're having to look down different avenues. You're having to think more about maybe TV work or music video work. And obviously there's less jobs and more people. So it makes a dancer's, a singer's, an actor's life 10 times harder. But if you've still got the drive, still got the passion, I feel like you can do anything. Just go for it.
And how would you say that the industry has adapted to the coronavirus?
To be fair, I feel like the industry has adapted well in the current circumstances, because I've been doing a few like dance rehearsals, choreography rehearsals, and we have to wear like masks while we're dancing. We're not allowed to be more than 2 meters closer to each other while we're like socialising and stuff like that. Obviously, some theatres are opening this Christmas for Panto and they're socially distancing. So I feel like it has adapted very well under the circumstances the best they can. But then I feel like this is all we can really do before something happens where we don't need to do it anymore.
And are you still doing a lot of auditions?
Yes, to be fair, I've been doing a lot of like self-tapes. They're coming around more than ever right now. I've been doing a lot of self-tapes.
So I've noticed throughout the lockdown, you have been very, very active online. Could you tell me what made you get into doing TikToks and Instagram videos?
Pure boredom in lockdown. I didn't know what to do. I was like, you know what? I'm going to start making some TikToks. If they blow, they blow. If they don't, they don't. They're fun either way. But then also, as well, with social media, I feel like it's getting so much more important because I've had jobs. I've had agents through Instagram. And I feel like it's good to keep up that presence. People that audition and look on your Instagram, they look on your social media now, so they can get like a little bit of a flavour of you before you step into the room. And then you just get known through social media.
This is Take 20.
Take 20.
So what do you think about that one, Sean?
I think it was really interesting to see the insight from someone in an industry that really has had very little support throughout this entire thing and have kind of had to fend for themselves in a way. I think it was so nice to hear from someone on the inside of that.
Yeah, I think that's what really made me enjoy it. It's just the fact that I got to see it from an insider's point of view. But there is another side of the story, which is the people behind the camera. So we sent over Max to interview a Hollywood camera grip. Let's see how it goes.
Thank you, Sean and Angelo. Now, despite the COVID-19 pandemic and the government restrictions, I was able to arrange a remote interview with Joe Thompson, who is a professional camera grip and has worked for Disney in multiple studios on film franchises such as Star Wars, Harry Potter and Jurassic World. You're a camera grip, and grips work very closely with camera operators, don't they?
Literally, not just sort of in like an artistic sense, but in a literal sense as well.
And how have production companies helped in trying to make a safe workplace within the COVID pandemic?
Production companies are having to spend a lot of money paying for infrastructure to protect the film crew because they're working under these conditions.
Okay, so are gloves and face masks and visors mandatory then?
If you were going to be within 3 metres of a member of cast, the main reason being is that they can't wear PPE because they're in front of the camera. It would obviously taint the image unless the movie was about COVID.
You're right, there are COVID documentaries out there, but for example, if you were just watching Harry Potter and they all started wearing face masks, that would be quite strange. And how do the protective procedures affect the timings of things and your ability to meet deadlines?
It's a very time-sensitive job. You've got to be quick, you've got to be fast, but at the moment, you've got to be very, very, very self-aware of how close you are to people and keep it to a minimum whilst getting the job done as fast as you possibly can, but also just being very mindful of social distancing and all the other protection guidelines that are in place.
That was Joe Thompson, a Disney camera grip. The idea that coronavirus slows down work links to a lot of jobs, like with us here as well, but we are still able to produce quality radio for all you listening. Back to the studio now with Sean and Angelo.
This is Take 20.
Take 20.
Well, I think that was incredibly interesting to hear from both behind and in front of the camera in an industry that has fallen on really hard times. Angelo, what did you think of that last one?
I found it really, really interesting because obviously I spend a lot of time in front of the cameras. So it is really, really nice for me to kind of be educated as to how people behind the camera are also affected by the pandemic.
Now, of course, at the start of the show, we asked you to get involved. The question was, should Manchester be in Tier 3 coronavirus restrictions? And of course, you tweeted us with the hashtag Take20, and some of your feedback has come through. We've got one here from James who says, absolutely not. You know, Manchester should not be in Tier 3 when London is in Tier 2. Angelo, what have you got?
Aaron said that he actually thinks that we should be in Tier 3. So he's with the government on that one.
Well, that's all we've got time for this week. I'd like to give a huge thank you to all the contributors that took part in today's show. Massive thanks to Dylan. Have you found it, Dylan?
It's been a pleasure, as always.
Fantastic. And a huge thank you to my co-presenter, Angelo. Thank you very much for being here. And of course, thank you for listening at home. This has been Take 20. Goodbye.
This is Utter Radio.
This is Take 20.
Take 20.
With Sean Hatch and Angelo Monteiro.
Sean Hatch.